Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, Cesar Espino. Hey, what's going on, guys? It is your friend Cesar Espino, and welcome to another episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. I'm excited to be here today, and I wanted to introduce you to my special guest. His name is Ron. He's a multiple award-winning commercial real estate broker with decades of sales experience who use warmth, humor, personal stories, and tangible action items to help you build a home, your interpersonal skills. Hey, Ron, how are you today, man?
Good morning, Caesar. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to be here. It's another beautiful day today.
Yeah, we got one. We got a beautiful day in New York as well. In May 29th, we get great weather here in New York as well.
I love that. I love that. So tell me a little bit about your background. So you're originally from New York. How was your upbringing?
My upbringing was fantastic, but it had challenges, and that's overcoming. And I
Yeah.
think that because my dad came first, that he sort of paved the way for my brother and I to understand overcoming, anything. My dad, his family owned a small little luncheonette, and he said, "That's not my future. I'm not going to spend my life cleaning tables and serving coffee. I'm going to do something."
Mhm.
What he wanted to do. But there was only one opportunity when you want to do something and you want to make money, you go into sales.
Mm.
Sadly, he didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
Took him
Yeah.
a little bit to learn about it. But what had happened was my dad would, he does everything the same. He reads a book about it, starts to learn about it, reads another book, another book, another book, another book, self-taught. What happened was he started to hand me the books. How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling. Here you go. It's by Dale Carnegie. And he also, many of these books he just started to hand off. And I saw something amazing happen. It's really, truthfully, what I'm still doing to this day. He learned the fundamental skills, how to go from no money to multimillionaire.
Mm. How
And
long
he
did
taught
it
my
take you to
brother,
get that?
and he taught my brother how to do it, and he taught me how to do it.
Yeah.
He had a sign on his wall, and maybe it'll help your listeners. It said, "Get rich slowly."
Mm. Okay.
Get rich slowly. Now, nobody wants to get rich slowly. Why would anybody want that? Well, he
Right.
wanted to stay there. He wanted to stay there. So, how long did it take him? To me, I was a little boy. It was an overnight success. We went from being what I thought was, I don't want to say poor. I just want to say financially scared to not being
Yeah.
financially scared.
Yeah.
Um, and eventually to really successful. My dad is super, super successful. But more importantly, what he did was he taught us at the dinner table a skill set and also financial, as he learned things financially. And if someone said to me, "How can you explain growing up?" I would say at the dinner table, my dad taught us rules. Now, if I
Mm.
said to you, like one of the rules was the rule of 72, do you know what the rule of 72 is?
Uh, no.
That's amazing, right? It's exactly right. And again, I wouldn't know either. I'm sure that maybe 90% of the people listening don't know. It's how money doubles.
Okay.
Now, if because of the way money accumulates, so if you earn money at 10%, you divide that into 72, and it takes 7.2 years for it to double. Now, if you 72 divided by 11% only takes 6.5 years. So these are the rules that he taught us. But more importantly, I think that not only was it the financial, this is a self-help world. And I want people out there listening to know that you have to know that.
Yeah.
School's doing the very best they can to teach you what they know. But I believe that, 9 things should be taught in school. Number 1, public speaking.
Yeah.
It's teachable by doing. We'll talk about that. Sales, critical thinking. Debate teams do it, but I don't know enough people that were on debate teams. Effective communication, relationship building, teamwork, active listening, and negotiation. Everyone says, hey, are you a good negotiator? Great. Really? Tell me about the 4 C's. The what? The 4 C's. Tell me about common interests. You walk into a negotiation, we've got common interests. Let's talk about it. You're here to sell a shopping center. This guy's here to buy a shopping center. But we got some conflicting interests. We need a new roof. The roof needs a lot of work. It's expensive. Well, what's the criteria? What do you mean? That's the 3rd C, criteria. What have you done in the past? Well, typically in my industry, the man must deliver, or the seller must deliver a leak-free roof. Those are the rules. That's the criteria. Let's talk about the leaking now. Now we're getting into it. And the last part is compromise. So you really got to know how to negotiate properly. You got to be taught, and all these things can be taught. In 2005, T. Harv Eker wrote a book called The Millionaire Mind. And he said, if you have these 8 skills, these are the skills that encompass the millionaire mind. Now, turns out when I wrote my book, and I learned from my father, and I learned from the books that he read, and I learned from my experience over the last 30 years or 40 years being a salesperson and commercial real estate broker, one was missing, and that one is resilience. I think resilience should make the list. I didn't know, I hadn't read his book, but now that I have read his book, I can tell you that 85% of current entrepreneurs and business leaders started their careers in sales.
Yeah.
So what came first, the success or the skill set?
I would say the skill set.
Right? How important is something like, let's talk about public speaking. It's
Yeah.
not being taught.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, when you talk about all the things, the different skills or things that we should know, I think 80% of them probably are not being taught at school, right? And not getting down school, the public system, or even
Me
in the
neither.
educational
Me
system.
neither.
I just believe that when you go into to college to get a degree, many of these things are not talked about or taught, right? You're more learning something on how to be a good employee, right?
Well, there's 4,000 universities, colleges and universities in America.
Yeah.
90 have a class in selling. It's unimportant. They don't recognize it. They don't know it's teachable. But I believe that 85% of current entrepreneurs and business leaders started in sales. You need these skills: resilience, public speaking, sales, critical thinking, communication. 80% of success is the ability to work well with others. Only 20% is the technical and industry knowledge. Now, I can tell you everyone's going to teach you in commercial real estate what to do. My attitude is I want the 80%, and these skills are transferable. And I think really why I wrote my book, Power Broker, How to Be Successful in Business and in Life, is because while I was in sales and while I was taught by a very successful salesperson, it was my brother who was at that dinner table, who was in that life with me, who said to me, there is a skill you simply don't have. And I was like, I don't have it? No. He said, you're terrible. I said, terrible? I said, what am I terrible at? And he said, active listening. And I said, no, 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 misunderstanding. I understand. You don't have to actively listen. Your ears, they're just attached to your head and you can just hear. There's nothing to do. It's not active. And that's when I fully started to understand active listening and that people want to be heard and
Yeah.
understood. And that active listening is putting away your distractions. It's really focusing on what the other person says. You might even repeat back to them what they said, and it's not interrupting them. So
Right.
once I started to actively listen, to me, that was where I understood that these skills need to be taught, they need to be uh, relished, and they need to understand the value of these 9 skills. So that's why I wrote a book about it.
Yeah.
It's 80% of life. 80% of life. 80% is just dealing with another human being. Now, that might be your significant other.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. When we talk about sales, right? I think, as you mentioned, it is a skill. That definitely something you have to really work on. Except again, everything we do in life, right? Even from the moment we were born, we're selling something, right? We're selling the idea to our parents that we want that ice cream. We're selling the idea to our significant other we want to go eat someplace else, right? But it is not seen that, it's more seen as a conversation. Yet again, we're doing something. We're influencing people
Right.
in a way, right?
Right.
Um,
So I'm with you. I think that sales skills are transferable.
right,
If you can get your mom to get you the ice cream, maybe you can get somebody to buy a shopping center from me because I learned how to listen and
right.
convince them of, what we want. So, sales skills are transferable.
Yeah. And I think the challenge is that when maybe growing up as you kind of get knocked down or you get a lot of those no's, like even in real estate, right? And commercial, I'm sure it's the same, just like, um, regular real estate, when you're calling people like, hey, let me sell, I can sell your house or let me buy your house. And you get all these no's, people get discouraged and then they say, well, this is not for me, right? Then they back down. Same thing as growing up. If you hear the word no and a lot of things that you are asking for, you might get that
Yeah,
idea of,
it's in
okay,
my
well,
book. I think like the average 5-year-old hears the word 27,000 times, the word no, before they reach the age of 5 or something.
wow,
So we're a environment, but listen, I'm a parent. I've been there. No, don't touch that electrical outlet.
yeah,
So right, I'm not. So I think that I would like to put the emphasis on teaching. I'd like to say to
hmm,
that residential real estate broker, you need to speak to, 300 people for every one. And I don't know in resident, I know nothing about it.
right,
So if you've spoken to 30 people and you haven't gotten a house listing, that's correct. That's right sized. So I
mhm,
think it's communication. I think that these skills need to be worked on. Critical thinking, thinking on your feet, the ability to process information on your feet, relationship building, how you treat other people. Active listening was the jumping off part for me.
mhm,
Um, always was brought up at that table with my family, with my brother, with my mother, with my dad. My dad did a lot of the talking. That was the dynamic in my family. He taught us the only thing that matters is how you look at something. You got to look at things positively.
mm, yeah,
You're 29% smarter when you're smiling. How you think about a problem is more important than the problem itself.
yeah,
Basically, what he taught us at that dinner table is exactly what your podcast is about. You can overcome anything.
mhm,
It's just simply what you're willing to, you know, bring into your mind,
right,
how you're going to harness this world. It's all negative. You
yeah,
put the newspaper, you put the television on, you listen to the news. It's all negative. You're bombarded. So how do you equip yourself, with it? It's knowing, it's knowing these skills. That's the reason why I wrote a book on it, because I know we're all in sales. Only 1 in 9 people in America, if you ask them what they do for a living, will say that they're in sales.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other 8 are too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think so. So how do we start building the skills?
Okay. Um, you know, it's mostly doing. It really is doing. First we have to understand that I want you to value these skills. Let's talk about public speaking. Okay.
Mhm.
If there's one I would love to jump out on and just take every one of my employees and put them in front of the group once a week, it'd be public speaking, because it's something that you alluded to. It's like going to the gym. These are muscles. You got to exercise those muscles, and you may be a good gym goer, but if you don't go for 5 years, you're not a good gym goer. You know what I mean?
Right.
So point is that you got to practice. You got to practice public speaking. Now, I'm just going to put this in there because I find it intriguing and
Mhm.
find it insanely intriguing. Baked in to public speaking is a fear, the fear of public speaking. We've all heard it's bigger than the fear of death.
Right.
Okay. It's called glossophobia, the fear of public speaking. And what that is it's a fear from our ancestors of rejection. It's a fear of criticism. It's a fear of being ostracized. We used to live in these tight-knit communities, and if you were ostracized for saying something embarrassing, you would literally be ostracized out of the group, and you'd have to fend for yourself from a pack of ravaged
Mhm.
wolves or something. I don't know. So that's the fear that we all have. Now, it's not real. We're not going to be ostracized. If I say something dumb, I say something dumb.
Right.
But you have to overcome that.
Yeah.
And that's why the practice is so important. And baked, into us, there's this false fear. Talk about overcoming anything, practice, practice with public speaking.
Yeah.
Same things with, critical thinking. I was not on a debate team. I wish I was.
Yeah. Yeah.
In my book, Power Broker, How to Be Successful in Business and Life, we talk about that. But more importantly, I wasn't happy with just talking about it. What I wanted was actionable practice. So every chapter has practice.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
You have to do it. You learn by
Yeah.
doing. You
Yeah.
learn by doing.
Yeah. And that's actually huge. It's like trying to learn a language, right? Or if you as you know, in high school you always need to take a different language, right? But if you don't practice that, you tend to forget it, right?
I took
uh,
Spanish. Maybe I know 3 words,
right. Exactly. So same year I took French, and I
maybe 3
forget
words,
most of
right?
it.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, so you have to practice. You have to kind of hone in that the idea of just keep doing that. And I when you talk about public speaking, I think that's definitely one of the things that is the most rewarding, right? When you do public speaking, if you do it, in such a way, right? Is supposed to be one of the highest paying things you can do in the world when you do public speaking. Um, and so tell me, where did the idea came about becoming a broker?
Sure. I always knew that I was going to be in sales. My dad put his head on. My dad obviously played a big part. He's still alive. He's 88 years old. He played a big
Nice.
part in right. And still does plays a big part in myself and my brother's uh lives. And he put his hand on my head and said, "This is my lawyer." Because to him, being a lawyer was just, that was education, that was success. And he wanted you to have something. You could always fall back on that. He put his hand on my head and said, "This is my accountant." And I heard him. So I went to become an accountant, and it didn't stick.
Yeah.
I like what he did, sales. My brother actually became a lawyer and is a real estate lawyer to this day.
Mm.
But I chose to sell. And I went into sales early in my career, and I didn't find commercial real estate selling shopping centers, office buildings, and things like that, for a few years. But I've always been in sales, so I've always been intrigued by this, and I've always thought it's based on what my dad said. It was a career. It was a career no different than a doctor, or a lawyer, or an accountant, with its skills and its learning and its, so he said to me, a lot of the learning that he had was done through these books, Earl Nightingale, um, Napoleon Hill. So I took those. Maybe I, treated them differently than other people. I treated them like that was grad school for me.
Mm,
So I
got it.
went to grad school,
Yeah.
but I always looked at these skills as the fundamental skills of success.
Yeah. That's actually a good point. There's so many books and definitely Dale Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, a lot of great, Jim Rohn, a lot of people have really great content, right? Um, from your perspective, a lot of people might pick up a book, kind of go through the pages, read it. Okay, I'm done. Let me pick up the next book, and so on and so forth, right? W- What do you think will be the best applicable thing that we can do, people can
Sure.
do when they pick up a book and actually,
Right. My
take action?
message, right.
Hmm.
My message, as you can see, is, my father had such a role on me instead of my mom. Don't get me wrong. Don't get
Yeah,
me wrong.
yeah.
Absolutely. But I think that I'm a father. I'm 60 years old. I'm a father too. I had kids late in life. I have a 10-year-old and an
Mhm.
11-year-old. And the message that I want them to hear is the same message I think I'm going to share with you right now. It's the understanding of the importance of these skills. They permeate everything, and they are 80% of everything. So why not go to the 80% and let the other 20% take care of itself? What does that mean? That means that Oprah Winfrey, she interviews 37,000 people.
Mhm.
Okay. And in February in 2020, they asked her, what did you learn by interviewing 37,000 people? And she said, everyone you meet just wants to be seen and heard. Talk about active listening. Let's talk about active listening. 50% of all marriages end in divorce. Listen,
Yeah,
bottom line is, I'm not here, but does your significant other feel heard? I'm guilty of it too.
right.
You know what I mean? Have you taken an interest in actually listening to them?
That's huge.
Do
Yeah,
they feel heard?
yeah.
Are you
That
putting
is.
away your distractions? Do you really listen? Do you reflectively listen? Reflectively listen is, hey, I'm having a bad day. Oh, wow. Sounds like you're having a bad day. How come? Man, there's not brain surgery there. How come? Why was it a bad day? I can't believe you cared. Yeah, it's really dead. I don't know. Stuff happened. Ask questions. Also, that's a big thing in America. We're taught how to answer questions. Raise your hand, raise your hand. No one's taught how to ask questions.
Mm, yeah,
So
yeah,
if your listeners come out of this, I want them to get the same thing that I got at my dinner table. Same thing I want my kids to get at the dinner table. I want to say that life skills are 9 skills: resilience, negotiation, active listening, public speaking, sales, teamwork, relationship building, communication, and critical thinking. These are the skills that I value, and I want other people to value them too.
yeah.
That's
No,
how you overcome anything.
yeah, no, that's huge, and I really appreciate that. Let me ask you this: you obviously have learned a lot from in the years of experience. Do you have any daily habits that you do?
Yes,
What are
definitely.
they?
Well, I'm a commercial real estate broker. I sell shopping centers. So I'm very personally, um, I am very structured. So I time block everything.
Okay.
I do. I time block everything. So before this here in New York, it is 11 a.m. We had a 10:30 web, podcast. I time blocked my prospecting calls. I
Hmm.
am religious. I am I am fanatical about my prospecting calls. I know that's where it moves the meters. Everyone has different KPIs,
Yeah,
key production indicators. I know mine and my prospecting calls. I need to touch base every single day with 20 different landlords. Every day, Monday through Friday,
I'm like, where's the many
300.
malls in New York? And every day, that's a lot.
There's owners.
Yeah,
It's not just shopping
yeah,
centers. It's mixed use. It's
yeah.
apartment building. It's industrial buildings,
Right.
medical buildings. All sorts of buildings. Um, it's a simple process. Selling is In football, they call it tackling and blocking. That's the real heart of the matter, is when you tackle someone and you block someone. And that's what, selling is. It's those prospecting phone calls.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have a very structured.
I do. During my
Yeah.
work day, I do. I stay structured. I do. I do. I own a firm. I've owned the firm now for 23 years. Real estate market is challenging right now.
Yeah.
Very challenging. Interest rates are high.
Right. Do you see a major shift on commercial real estate, or for the good or for the bad?
You know, after doing this, being a commercial real estate broker for 28 or 30 years or something, yes, it's the same thing I would tell my kids. You feel really great, right? Don't worry, that'll change. Feel really bad, right? Don't
Yeah,
worry, that'll
that'll
change.
change soon.
So, right.
Yeah.
So the market right now, I've seen so many different cycles. I really expect interest rates to drop. Inflation is becoming under control. I do think that we're in an election year, 2024, and not to be political, I think someone's going to, or something's going to happen with interest rates. I'm not
Yeah.
sure who or why, but I'm very confident that things are going to change. So I do expect interest rates to change, and I do expect there to be a lot of interest back in commercial and residential real estate.
Yeah. No, that definitely. Um, what in terms of just the idea of real estate, you know, and doing commercial real estate, in terms of talking to businesses, and I know it's a little bit different because obviously they might want to sell versus a residential real estate where you're trying to get them out. um I would imagine though there's still a challenge there. Like you said, negotiations, and there's a lot of things that you gotta talk about in terms of the 9 skills you talked about.
Yeah,
But maybe early on in your career you will get a lot of that. No, you're too new to this, or maybe you're being knocked down, and again, that's the fear of a lot of people getting rejected.
right.
um and so how do you, besides going over the 9 skills, are there any other
Sure.
things that you can tell somebody
Yeah,
on
no
how they
problem.
can
No,
kind of?
because I come across that all the time.
Yeah.
I always have people that are new to the business, and really, the first year um, is the hardest in
Mhm.
my business. And I've heard it said that you learn 80% of everything you need to know as a commercial real estate broker in your first year. So the first thing I want to tell everybody as a salesperson is you're not doing this alone. Okay, calm down. You're not doing this alone. You're not doing this alone. So if you work at my firm, you get to share my knowledge.
Mhm.
So when you go on a sales call and says, I may not know, I may not know the real valuation of your building, but I can promise you one thing. I work at American Investment Properties, and we're going to produce for you a complimentary broker price opinion or a complimentary property evaluation. And that is going to explain to you how. So my boss or my associate has been doing this for close to 30 years. And, I put a lot of time into. So the answer to your question is, in your first year, you don't know and you're scared. Fear. Let's talk about fear. That's the thing. The fear is the unknown. False evidence appearing real. It's not real. I don't know, but I got a guy in my office that does, or on the other side of this cell phone. Hang on. Hey, Ron, what's his building worth? Oh, I
Yeah.
know that building. Sure. Let's talk about the income, the expenses, the net operating income, and give them a really, really, really specific number. So, you have to, I would tell anyone in sales, you have to borrow from the team that you're with. It can't be just you. It's too much.
Right.
You 2 out of 3 people, I think, fail in sales in their first year. I mean, the failure rate is incredible. So we're not doing well at this. We're just not teaching sales well. I'd
Right.
like to change that. I'd like to change that specifically for my sons, Drew and Chase, whatever they become. I don't care if they become, doctors or anything on the planet, I want them to be able to effectively communicate. I want them to be able to listen, but have their ideas heard. And be good at this thing that we call sales.
Yeah.
We group so much together into sales that it's become people just consider it just the ability to talk well or speak well.
Yeah. Because I really love this nice fundamental skills that you talked about, and they're not being taught at school. How can one start learning them uh, and discovering them?
Right. Well, it's a self-help world. It really is a self-help world. I did the best that I could to help this. I wrote a book called Power Broker, How to Be Successful in Business and Life by Ron Koenigsberg. It's on Amazon. But T. Harv Eckert's book, The Millionaire Mind, is going to tell you nothing to do with sales. However, the skills are the same.
Mm.
I've only added one more.
Yeah.
So we've all agreed, well, not we all, but okay. I believe that his book and many of the other success manuals isolate these skill sets that need to be practiced. But first, you need to be aware of it.
Right.
Okay. First thing is you need to be aware of it. Why do I need to actively listen? My ears are attached. Well, my brother taught me that. My whole life changed. I started to listen to my then girlfriend at the time.
Mhm.
Divorced. Maybe I wouldn't be as divorced if
Yeah.
if
If you were listening.
if I was listening a little better.
Yeah.
So these skills, the 4 C's of negotiation, they have to be self-taught. We have to look at it and say, well, okay, the most important thing, 80% of everything that I do, and 85% of all current entrepreneurs, business leaders value these skills. You got to start by understanding you need to value these skills.
Yeah. No, that's huge. They definitely we get some people that are listening to, they got to go on and pick up your book and start learning the skills, because you said I agree 100%. They're missing, and even some of the things you talked about, I've encountered them, and once you can master them or know about them, you can do a lot better in your and not just in business. I think also in personal life, as you
That's
mentioned.
right. That's right. Why would it be any different from
Right.
somebody in business that likes you, trusts you, and we do business with people that we like and we trust, and then we talk about our personal lives. To me, a lot of the people I do business with, they're my friends too. I mean, 30 years of doing it. So, the bottom line is these are the skill sets
Right.
that they're very, very, very transferable.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But we're in a crash course. Now, this is the interesting part. I'll leave you with, we're not going anywhere, but
No.
we're in a crash course. Everything's going the wrong way.
Yeah.
Why? Let's talk about text messages. Let's talk about communication. Let's talk about the science of communication. Well, we studied it, and the FBI studied it, and they came back and they said that 55%, more than half of communication, is body language, facial expression, and body movement, and everything like that. 55%. Look at the intensity in my face, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
38% is tone of voice, how you say something, okay? And 7% is the message itself. Let's talk about text messages. How's the tone coming through on text messages? How's the body language?
Right.
They knew that it was faulted, so they put in emojis to try to help. How good are emojis?
Right.
Not great. So we're in a crash course.
Yeah.
We're in a crash course. We are in a crash course. We're getting further and further away from in person, and we're getting closer and closer to more text messages. The average person sends like 156 text messages under the age of 24. Over the age of like 24, it's like, I don't know, 50 or 60 text messages receiving or sending a day. We're doing it. We touch our phones on average 2,600 times a day.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's actually a very good point. I definitely know a lot of people that they prefer a text message versus a voice message or even a video call nowadays. And I'm the opposite. I like to, as you mentioned, because this one area that I study a lot where, our communication is based on the 3 things or the 3 elements and that we talked about, your physiology, your tonality, and the words that you use, right? And we want to be able to use a lot of that stuff. And even when we talk about the words that we use or how we speak, one thing that we got to be conscious of are the words that we use.
Right.
The intensity of that. Are there being words that are positive, excuse me, or negative, right? You know, are you using words that are have a negative connotation? And so it's interesting to actually talk about that. That's one thing that I talk a lot about with people that I teach, and I also do public speaking, and we talk about those three different elements because that is huge. If you see some of the greater speakers, they do a lot of their physiology, or the way they stand, the way they portray their tone of voice. A lot of the things is huge. And you're right, through text messages, you don't get that. So I personally still like to pick up the phone and call somebody, or hey, let's do a video call. And
Right.
and a lot of people are like, no, I'm good just texting, right? Like, well,
Unfortunately,
yeah,
we're getting, as you can see, there's becoming more and more of a resilience away from, um, you know, uh, person to person. And let's talk about texting for a minute. Gen Z says that making a phone call gives them anxiety. 79% of Gen Z, which, I don't,
yeah,
we'll go through what years that was, says that they preferred to text a company and wish that all companies were textable rather than having to speak on the phone because it gives them anxiety. So we're
wow,
getting far away from public speaking. And I think that, I'm not saying it's an epidemic. I'm just saying that we're getting further and further away from this. These skills are not being taught. They're not being exercised. And it's the exact opposite direction of, I think, where we should be and need to go based upon the science of communication.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's interesting fact. And the other thing that reminds me is even during COVID, right? Um, there was that. I think the fact that we were being quarantined, or we wouldn't be allowed in public places. It kind of went both ways. A lot of people enjoyed that. My alone time. Let me just get on the computer, go social media, and then I think the older generation, at least from my perspective, were like, no, let me out. I want to be able to be in public and do public speaking and connect with people and be able to do that, right? And so it's interesting what's going on in our in nowadays, really, with all of that. So maybe
Right.
that's a
I
different
want my
topic.
kids, I want your listeners, I want you, I want everybody else to understand that it's a world where texting is great and it should be used, and we touch our phones 2,617 times per day on average, but you got to learn how to public speak. We need to learn how to actively listen. We need to value teamwork. We
Yeah,
need to value building relationships, because this is where these skills are very teachable. And scales, sales skills are transferable, and these are the skills we're all in sales.
yeah, 100%, 100%. Ron, where can people find out more about you?
Sure. At my landing page, www.ronkoenigsberg.com. If you can put it up there, it's a difficult name to spell.
Sure.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I have a module for each of these. I did a Kajabi module for
Oh,
each of
nice.
these,
Yep.
and they wanted to sell them, and we're giving them away for free. My message is real simple. I want to give it away for free. I want people to basically understand the importance of sales skills, the importance of practicing them, and the importance that they have in their lives, and that it is like going to the gym. It is easy to text somebody rather than pick up the phone,
Yeah.
but you lose so much context. And if there's one message that I want to share with everybody is learn how to listen. I didn't know how. And since I learned how to listen and be teachable, it's changed my life.
Yeah. It's like and I forget if it was Les Brown or Jim Rohn that mentioned this. I forget now. I said, if you do what is easy, your life will be hard. If you do what is hard, your life will be easy. And I like that because, again, as you mentioned, given that contents, it is easy to, you know, text, or it's easy to come home tired, sit on the couch, watch TV, bad news. Um, Yet your life will be hard down the line, right? It is hard to come home tired and say, you know what, nope, I'm gonna put on my workout clothes, I'm gonna go to the gym. It's hard to eat that fruit versus that pizza. Yet your life will be easy down the line, right? So
That's right.
that's huge.
That's right. No, we're, the food supply is a problem. what people are eating in America is a problem, but it's a self-help world. My dad taught me that because he was struggling. He didn't want to work he didn't want to serve coffee all day. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It just didn't, that's not what he wanted for his entire life. He didn't want to be in that luncheonette with my grandfather. So he chose a different life. And he said to me, this is self-taught. And I think anyone listening, I would want to say to them that if you're going to overcome anything, be self-reliant, be self-taught, and know that, in my opinion, it's all about these interpersonal skills, because you're going to be dealing with people, you're going to be dealing with, there's billions and billions of people on the planet. I think there's 8 billion. You're going to be dealing with some of them.
Yeah, no, that's huge. Ron, anything else you want to say before I let you go?
I think everyone should practice active listening today.
Yeah,
Whatever their significant other says to them, say, wow, it sounds like you're pretty hungry, or, it sounds like you had a good day, or it sounds like you had a bad day, or it sounds like, let's practice active listening. Let's start to
yeah.
hear each other.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you again for being here. Really appreciate our
Fun to be here.
conversation. Yeah, definitely. And for the rest of you guys, do me a favor, go pick up his book and also share this message, because definitely somebody needs to hear it. And I'll see you guys at the next episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cesar Espino, real estate investor, business coach, and consultant, and author of the book, You Can Overcome Anything, Even When the World Says No. My number is 424-501-6046. In my book, I talk about making the necessary changes to shift your mind for prosperity and certainty. Pick up your copy at Amazon. I also love helping families with their real estate and can purchase your house fast and all cash. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My number is 424-501-6046.
Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you've tuned into this podcast. You can find me at your favorite podcast platform where you can like, subscribe, comment, and share. And to learn more about myself, my services, you can find me at www.CesarRespino.com, or you can also find me at your social media. Thanks for joining me, and I am looking forward to having you at the next episode. And know you truly can overcome anything.